When do you know that it's done? When is a song good enough, ready, done, whatever? That's something that's always hard for people to know because
Yeah.
you could go on forever.
Some artists, they want you to change chords if you want. And some others, they like their chords and they don't want you to mess with the chords.
I don't really believe in the concept that you only write when you are inspired because that just happens every once in a while. I think you should just write and practice.
I think also it's important to not judge whatever you're doing in the moment.
I like the idea of being completely free with no pressure and no rules in the beginning and then getting more and more focused and more into like a workflow.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go.
One of the requirements we have for people who want to work with us is that they need to have songs written that are ready to be recorded. You need material that is pretty much ready to go so that we can walk you through the process and make sure that you get exceptional results recording and mixing those songs yourself. And since this part of the process, the writing and pre-production, is what Manel does very well for the artists he works with, I'm letting him walk us through this approach today, step by step, through his approach. So this is great for you in many ways. First of all, if you want to self-produce your songs and plan on working with us through our coaching, you can prepare and get your songs ready for that just by listening to an episode like this and some of the others that we have. Secondly, if you don't want to do that part yourself and you think you need help doing that, which is a great idea, I think, in many cases, you can contact us and you can bring Manel onto your team so he can work with you on getting your songs ready at the highest quality. And either way, you'll learn what it takes to take a voice memo, a simple phone demo, something you record in GarageBand, or a very rough song idea into a finished song that can then be recorded and mixed without compromise. So today I'm going to interview my wonderful co-host, Manel Espinosa Berenguer from Spain, and let him walk us through what he actually does, because he's a great producer, songwriter, and he starts the process pretty early sometimes with people where artists come to him with ideas for songs, but they're not fully fleshed out yet. And then they go through a process and producing all of that. And I'm very, very interested in his process. So this is going to be super helpful for you. My name is Benedict Hein. Hello, I'm the host of the show. If you are new to this is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the place where we help you make exciting sounding records from your home studios and jam spaces. I am a mixing engineer. I've been doing that full time for more than 15 years, and we mix hundreds of songs every single year, and all the lessons and insights and everything we learn from doing that we share with you here on this podcast. And we also run the selfrecordingband.com, which is a coaching platform where we work one-on-one with artists from all over the world, and we guide them through the process of doing all of that themselves. So, welcome. Good to have you. If you're already a listener, welcome back. Always good to have you too. And, of course, hello, my friend, Manel. So good to have you.
Hello, Benedict. I'm, as always, really happy to be here. And I'm ready for your questions for this Q&A. And yeah, as always, I'm Manel Espinosa. I'm a music producer and mixing engineer from Spain, and I'm really happy to work with artists and trying to bring their songs to a better place.
Yeah, totally. All right, so let's do this. Walk us through your process. Let's say someone contacts you with a very rough song idea, and they want to turn this into a finished production. And sometimes that includes the mixing and mastering. Sometimes, I know from working with you, that sometimes you produce it, but then someone else mixes it, but whatever. Like, just let's take the song development part of it, like the first, most important part of the process, actually. What are the steps that you go through with an artist to get them the results they want if all they have is a rough idea for a song?
Yeah. The first thing I do is send them a form with some questions about the lyrics, if, they can explain if they need some sort of help with the lyrics, or if they think that the lyrics are completely done or whatever. They need to talk to me about the references they have for this particular song, and not only which references they have, but what they like about those references. Then we talk about how the sound they imagine, like what instruments they think should be included and what not. And if they have, any special needs, like, for example, if they want strings or brass, or anything that might be a little bit different and maybe I cannot do and I have to outsource, or maybe some people, also very recommended, some people want to have a real drummer on the song. So then that would be important to know. And once that is completed, they normally send me the demo, whatever they have. Sometimes it's just someone singing because they don't play any instrument and they just send me a voice note and that's all about it. But normally they tend to play some guitar chords or some piano things, even if it's very basic, but they make themselves a little harmonic bass to, sing and make the song. And once that step is completed, then I review the form and I listen to the references and I start to normally find things that are not coherent.
Yeah.
Right? And after that, then we have a session, which can be also on a call or in person, where we talk through all those things for me to try to get more information and kind of define more precisely how the song is going to be. And for example, I have a really recent anecdote about this because yesterday I had a first session with a new artist, right? And he sent me the demo, and the demo was 90 BPM. Like the speed of the song was 90 BPMs. And he sent me 2 references which were 140 something BPMs, right? So when that happens, there's no way that his song is gonna feel anything similar to that. I mean, there's no way. I cannot make it. It doesn't really matter if I use the exactly same instruments, right? The feel is gonna be different. And in this case, the problem is if we get your song to 140 BPMs, then you're gonna have to change the lyrics because it doesn't work anymore. It's too fast for the song. And if we leave it as it is, or maybe we can bring it to 110 BPMs or something like that, there's no way that's gonna feel the same as the references. So then we have to make a decision. Do we want to keep the lyrics and the vibe of your song, or do we want to get it closer to the references? Because it's not all about the vibe, right? I mean, maybe he sent me the references, but he's more thinking about how the drums sound, or how, in this case, how the artist is using the synthesizers and stuff like that. So maybe the vibe itself, it's not as important for him, right? Which was the case. So we decided to leave it at 105 BPM.
Okay.
But we need to talk about these things because that does matter, So
let me ask a quick question on all of this. So this first of the part of the process where you basically you are a consultant at this point. You ask good questions, you figure out what they want, what they maybe don't like about their stuff, where they are, where they want to go, and you create a plan for them and basically consult them on what you would do and gather all the information you need. So that's the first part. Now, back to our listeners who maybe do that themselves when they prepare for recording, they won't send themselves a form, of course. So what can you do yourself as a first step to give yourself the information you need, or more clarity maybe on where you can actually take this song? Like, are there methods or strategic ways to like plan a project like that, or what would be, or do you need a plan at all? Because I'm asking because I know that a lot of people who contact me to work with them in the coaching, for example, they have a very basic demo that they sent me, and then when I ask them, if they have an idea where they want to take this or what the final thing should sound like and all those things, then sometimes they don't really have an idea. They don't even know what's possible. And of course, the best advice that I can give then is hire someone like Manel to help you with that. But are there things you can do yourself to give yourself more clarity, basically, as to what you can actually do with this basic idea that you have?
I mean, I think you can make a form yourself. Why not? Like,
yeah,
I actually did that.
Kind of a checklist sort of thing.
Yes, like I was making the last song that I made for myself, and I'm still finishing. Like when I started it, I went like, okay, I'm gonna imagine the producer and the artist are different persons. So I'm gonna go through the form and see, if what I'm thinking is coherent or not. And, but I think you should think about stuff like, how do I want my drums to sound? And it doesn't need to be something very technical. It's just, for example, in the case of the artist I was working with yesterday, we had 2 different songs and the drums sounded very different. One was more roomy with a lot of room, like you could hear like the snare like in a church or something like that, like very big. And the other one was closer. So ask yourself, do I want the drums like this or like that? Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be that I want the snare to have the fundamental at whatever hertz, it's more like a general thing. Or the guitars. Like, do I want the guitars more like this or that? Do I want them with more reverb? Like, how do I imagine things in my head? And from experience, I can tell that normally when artists get to think about this deeply, it is better because they, they make up their minds, and they get way more clarity when explaining what they want, right?
Yeah.
So I would say make yourself some sort of form anyways for you. Try to, find references. But again, I think it's also important to say that we're not trying to copy the references or anything like that, but it's just that there are things that we like and we can use references to try to mimic some sonic aspects or how the vocals sound or how the whatever, right?
Yeah.
So don't pick too many songs, like I would say max 4 and minimum 1, I guess. Yeah. And from there, try to make up your mind as of how do you want it to sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the switching perspectives thing is huge. Like being aware that, like you said, you are the producer, the writer, and the artist at the same time, and maybe switching between these personas and asking yourself good questions and just thinking about it from a different perspective can really help. And I want to add one more thing that I actually got from you when we talked about writing lyrics. We have an entire episode on that, by the way, if you want to watch this. There's one about writing lyrics. And one thing you mentioned there is a very clever use of AI that I just want to put in here, where instead of using AI to generate music for you or music ideas, you can use AI as a coach that asks you great questions so that you can then give the answers and come up with stuff yourself. So maybe you can tell something like ChatGPT, or not maybe, definitely, you can tell something like ChatGPT, instead of saying, I have the song, what do I do with it? You can say, I have this song idea. I want to turn it into a full song. Ask me really good questions that I can think about and ask myself, basically, and that can help me get more clarity and guide me to the result that I want. Like, what if you were, basically, you tell it, if you were a music producer, like act like a music producer, that which kinds of questions would you ask me so that you have all the information you need in order to work with me and turn this into a great song. And then the thing will ask you questions, and then you can answer them yourselves. And you don't have AI write the songs for you, but it can inspire ideas and cause you to think differently about your own project and the song. So that is a really clever use of AI that I'd use all the time in different aspects and areas of my life, where I use it to trigger certain thoughts and things that in my brain, basically, that I wouldn't have come up with otherwise. So
yeah, I think that could totally work wonders.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So clarity is the first step. Know what you want and what some references are, why you like them, because references is also one of those things where sometimes people give you 5 references, and basically what they are not references really for the song. They are just songs they like.
Yeah.
In 5 different genres and all that. But like still, maybe there is a common thread. Maybe there's a certain vibe that you like. Maybe there's a certain texture, a certain something that all of these have in common. Or maybe there are different things that you like about each of them, and you have to figure out what it actually is that you like about those. That's another thing. And then the other thing is, of course, not everyone needs the same degree of planning. Everyone works a little differently. Some people plan the creative part really well, and other people are more like spontaneous, or I don't really believe in the concept that you only write when you are inspired, because that just happens every once in a while. I think you should just write and practice. But I just want to point out that this is different for everyone. And I know that some creatives, some artists will be like, I don't want to plan when I make music. Yeah, you don't. If you get great results, do whatever you do. But if you don't, and you're asking for a strategic way to do it because you don't know how to do it, that's a good way. Like to plan it out and give yourself some clarity. Cool. So then you have all this information. You know basically what they want, what they're able to do, what they're not able to do, what they like about other songs, what they want their own thing to feel like, and hopefully maybe some background story about the song, what it is about. The emotion, the lyrics. Like it's. I think it's very important that you know about the story that they want to tell and the emotion that they want to get across and all of that. So once you have that, what happens next?
Next thing would be it depends. Like if they are here in person, normally we do how do you call that? Like a guide,
scratch tracks, guide tracks.
Yeah. Yes, normally with acoustic guitar and their voice, and then from there it starts my biggest part of the job, which basically is recording the instruments and making the song itself, right? And then when I have something that I think it's close enough, I send them demos, or I would say I call it vibe checks when it's not like completed enough for me, but I need to send it so that they can tell me, yeah, that's what I was thinking, or maybe you should, no, that's not the right direction, or because it doesn't make sense for you to spend so much time to like finish something and then realize it wasn't the right direction, right?
So in this vibe check, you basically add to that basic scratch track you recorded. So they record the basic idea for you. Maybe they've already done that. Maybe you do it together. You make sure that like the basic chord progression and a rough melody exists, and then around that you add additional whatever production elements they have in mind. You might add drums, you might add other instruments, you might add whatever it needs. But before you go into all the detail and finish the entire thing, you send them a vibe check so they can tell you if it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it tends to be positive if you send things quickly, because then you can check if you're in the right direction or not, right? And every artist is a different world. Like some artists, they want you to change more things, to add your flavor, or to change chords if you want, or if you think it's the best. And some others, they like their chords and they don't want you to mess with the chords.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So, and both ways are totally fine. But normally I talk about this also with them, like, how do you want to approach this? Do you want me to change more things if I feel like doing it, or do you want to keep, it's a matter of communicating, right? And so the process is I send vibe checks until I feel I have it, and then I send a completed demo. And once I do that, I send another form where they can, enter the changes they want. But this has to be more precise. Like at minute 1.28, I don't like this. Could you try something else? Or sometimes it's a general thing. And throughout the course, from the first vibe check to the final demo, things can, of course, change. It doesn't mean like when we do the first meeting and we agree on things, that doesn't mean that it has to stay like that until the end, because sometimes we notice different things, like stuff like the tempo should be faster or should be slower for different reasons. Or, maybe we thought that this instrument was going to work very well, but now maybe we don't need it,
Yeah.
And when we get to the end of that process with the final demo, that's when we make the final recordings, which in my case would be probably, it depends, but probably re-recording bass, guitars, and all that stuff. But I focus more on the recording instead of creating things. And then we do the vocal sessions here. But if they, like when I work online, the vocal sessions would be done somewhere else. The artists normally have somewhere that they are comfortable and they record vocals there.
Okay, so how, again, bringing this back to the home studio situation, I think the moving fast thing that you said is also important when you do it yourself. When you're in this vibe check phase, you can also do that with yourself. I think it's a good idea to not try and move from a basic guitar and vocal track to a fully fleshed out perfect thing immediately, because that will always cause you to be overwhelmed. It's like you would, if you want to write a book and you only have a title idea and a basic concept, if you start writing, you're not going to write every page perfectly the way it's going to be in the book. You write a rough draft first, and you edit that over and over again, and it gets more and more precise. But if you try to make every word perfect from the beginning, you're going to be overwhelmed and super slow. And the same is true with a song. If you think that now you're in the writing session and at the end of the day, you got to have your perfect song, maybe not a good idea. Just do a vibe check with yourself. Try a few things. Try a rough thing of this instrument, and then a rough, thing of the other instrument. Try a few textures and sounds, and don't worry about it being perfect or the perfect take or whatever. Just have fun, play around with it, and get a feel for what you actually like until you come across something that feels great, and then you can focus on re-recording all of things properly, or adding more details and whatever. So I think that's important. But how do you, like, from your perspective now, when you do this vibe check, for example, do you have a framework that helps, or some sort of process or way of thinking about it that helps you come up with ideas for that? Because at the end of the day, you are staring at a blank paper as well. I mean, you have their info, what they want, and you have the track, but then you still gotta somehow know what to add and what not to add, and how to do that. Like, is there some process that helps you do that, or what does that look like?
Whoa.
Like when you sit down and you're like, now I gotta turn this into something that I can send them. Like, where do the ideas come from to you? Is it all based on the information they gave you and that's just enough for you to do it? Or is there anything else?
I would say, although this maybe sounds weird, the ideas, most of them are first in my brain. Like, I've been talking with the artists and all that. So through that process, my brain also imagines how the song is going to be. So it's a matter of picking the right instrument and try to play the thing that was in your mind before. But yeah, something that I normally do nowadays is to try to spend quite a lot of time on the drums at the very beginning, because I think that plays a big part on the way I write music now. Like, if the rhythm is not the right one, sometimes, it's difficult, because I know if you know that the kick is gonna be there, then you might play something different in the bass, right?
Yeah.
So normally I tend to work more on the drums at the beginning so that it gets a little bit more closer to what I imagine. But other than that, it's just picking the instruments and trying things. With time, I think that an experience, but I don't really know how. It's just, it happened over time, over recording many, many times and trying many things. But I know you just pick the guitar and you know what to play.
Yeah.
Like, you also have your own style, your own way of doing things. So
Yeah. Okay. So one thing we need to say then here is that it probably helps to be a good musician first.
yeah.
And it sounds so trivial, but I'm saying this because I think a lot of people are struggling with it because they just are not skilled enough musicians yet. They lack any kind of theory knowledge. They lack the playing skills, and it's very hard to do what you do there if you're just not really good at your instruments, or ideally multiple instruments, really, or programming them or whatever. And I think a lot of people are stuck not because they don't have ideas or creativity, but they just can't do it on the instrument. And if that's you, then you have a big problem, and you definitely need to find other people to help you then in that case. But I'm just putting it out there because not everyone is aware of that. But yeah, let's assume you are a good musician. Then it's probably with the information that you have from yourself, from thinking about the process and what you want and all those things, you should have enough clarity to be able to start messing around with a few things and starting with a rough demo, which is going to be your own kind of vibe check. And I think that part of the process is like everything goes. There are no rules. I would be just very creative. I would be I wouldn't overthink it. I would move fast or I'd give it the time it needs, but also like move fast and don't try to be perfectionist in this part of the process. And at some point though, when you think like, yep, that feels great, and you passed your own vibe check basically, that's when you then I think can go into more refining, more details, and then I think I've did an episode on this too. If you've read the Creative Act book by Rick Rubin, where he separates his production process into the creative phase at the beginning where there are no rules at all, and he does super crazy things with the artists and then gets them to, he tries to squeeze out whatever creative juice there is in all kinds of different ways, and they mess around with a lot of things. But then at some point he switches to what he calls the crafts phase, where now the basic creative stuff is over. At some point we got to make sure it's actually getting done, and then this is where the musician in you, the professional musician in you, needs to take over and be like, okay, now let's take all these wild things that we've done and structure them a little bit and refine them and edit them a little bit, not in terms of precise editing and recording, that's all later, but throwing out the crap, keeping what's good, adding a couple of details, playing it a little better so that it actually comes together. I think at some point you got to move to that phase. I don't know if you do that the same way, but that's how I think about it. I like the idea of being completely free with no pressure and no rules in the beginning, and then getting more and more focused and more into a workflow more. So
continuing with the vibe check thing, I think also it's important to not judge whatever you're doing in the moment, because at least for me it always sounds worse. So I would let it be for at least a couple of hours, or even if you can wait to the next day to listen to it and really feel if it was good or not, right? And also I would try to avoid listening to the song over and over and over, because that doesn't do any good.
Yeah.
Even if you might love it at the beginning, but if you start to listen to it 100 times per day, it's not going to be a good thing.
yeah, absolutely. Especially if you do it all yourself. Objectivity is going to be out the window very quickly.
And then with regards to the next step, when you get to the more recording phase, Also, it's interesting that over time, there's a point where, I have to question myself sometimes, like, do I really need to record this again? Like, because once you are good at your instrument, at your craft and stuff, sometimes the first idea is already recorded and played well. So maybe you don't need to re-record everything. But there are things, especially I do it a lot with the guitars, like when you're playing parts with like big chords and stuff like that, sometimes when you move from one chord to the other chord, there's no way you can do that without any kind of noise.
Yeah.
So normally I prefer to record those parts like chord by chord. Like I play one chord and then stop and record again the next chord. Yeah. So that there's no, I mean, it's not a natural thing, of course, but the result, I feel it's better most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, but that gets into the recording side of things, and we don't really touch on that in this episode, but you're right. At some point, you got to re-record parts of the demo, and maybe you can keep parts of the demo. But now, back to your process of like creating the song. So they sent you notes on your whatever you delivered, and they have to be precise, like you said, and then you change those things. You get closer and closer to whatever their vision was. I assume it's going to be like a back and forth process, a little bit, a couple of rounds until everyone's happy. And at some point, what is the result of this? The result is going to be a really good demo, basically. It's the end of the pre-production process where the goal is, and that's super important to know for people, the goal of this is to have a recorded version of the song that is complete, but not the final takes yet, but something where you listen to the song and you get, like, yep, that's the song we're going to record. We could take this, go to a studio, do it ourselves, whatever, but this is the song, and all I need to focus on now is to play it very well with the right feel, the right emotion. There's always room to add little creative things still, of course, if you want. But basically, what you want to have is something where you could just book studio time, walk into this with the demo, and then say, let's track this for real. And then you don't have to worry about the song not being done yet, because that's a big waste of time, and most people cannot afford to write songs in the studio session. And even if you do it yourself, I think it's beneficial to separate these phases, like I said. So the goal is to have a version of the song that's recorded with everything in it. Doesn't have to be perfect takes yet, perfect timing, perfect sounds. That's not the point. But you got to make sure that you actually like the song and that the concept itself is good and it's worth actually producing this. Because a lot of people dive deep into the production or like the recording process with a song that will never really sound good because the song itself is lacking, and you want to make sure that it's actually worth going to all the detailed nerdy engineering stuff because the song is really good and needs that, right? So so that's okay. And then when do you know, you and the artist, when do you know that it's done? When is a song good enough, ready, done, whatever? Like that's something that's always hard for people to know because you could go on forever. There's always things you could add. There's always things you could change. But at some point, you got to be like, that's the song. That's how we're going to record it. How do you know when you're there?
You don't know it, I think. You just decided to leave it like that. But as you said, you can always change things. You could always try different directions of the production itself if you wanted. So I guess you just got to get used to turn the page and go ahead with the next thing. So, because at the end, I think sometimes those are our songs, our experiences, and those are very important to us. But let's not forget that at the end of the day, a song is just a song. And so it's not that important, really. So just move on to the next thing, because probably the next thing is going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I totally agree. There is actually, on that topic, I don't know if you've heard about this. I've heard it a couple of times the last couple of days for whatever reason. It popped up in many different podcast episodes that I listened to. There's a study that's been done with students of a pottery class. And there's the same study with photography students, I think, too. I heard it in different variations. And it doesn't even matter if it's real or not, but just the analogy, the concept. And it is real. There's real studies where they took one group of people and they say, you got to make, the goal is, like, both groups, you have 1 year to make the perfect pot, like pottery, stuff. And the one group, they said, like, focus on making one really amazing pot, and you have like a year or half a year time or whatever. And to the other group, they said, the goal is to make a pot every single day or every single week or whatever. And then at the end of the same amount of time, after a year or so, they looked at the results, and the ones who were just working on one thing forever and trying to make that perfect they were not nearly as good as the ones who made like 50 pots in the same amount of time. Or, with photography, I heard the same analogy where like the goal was you have 1 year time to take the perfect photo. And for the other group, the assignment was take a photo every day and submit it. And the best photos of all of this always came out of the group who did just one photo a day versus the one trying to capture that one shot, So in the same with music, I think if you can, of course, you want to make it great, but if you can manage to put out more work, to work on different songs, different ideas, just a consistent habit of creating new stuff, after a while, you're going to have a really, really good... There's going to be one of those songs that's going to be really, really good versus you trying to work on that one song forever until it's perfect. Chances that this is going to happen are much smaller. So, yeah, just work on more stuff, move on to the next thing. You can also absolutely abandon projects. You don't have to finish every single thing. If for whatever reason, it's just not that good, I don't know, like just leave it and move on to the next. It's like totally an option. All right, now to sum that up real quick. So someone has a rough idea, rough demo. You ask them a lot of good questions. They give you the info. You make them think about their own work a little differently, probably. This is something people tell me all the time, too, by the way. I do the same with coaching students. I make them fill out an assessment, and every person tells me afterwards, just the process of going through the assessment and having to fill out those things made me think about my own goals and what I want in a different way. Like, I haven't thought of this yet. So it's a helpful process, even for yourself. Yeah. So go through kind of an assessment and get some clarity of what you actually want. Then you implement those things and send them a vibe check that is not perfect yet, just to make sure you're going in the right direction. Then when that is approved, you work on more details. They send you more detailed specific notes until that basic idea has been turned into a full song, right? And then if that is approved, you can start the actual recording process and then record all the tracks for real, let them do the real vocal session and all of those things.
Yes, that's cool. Exactly what happens.
Great. And on average, how long does it take? Let's assume you don't have any other things, and you have other things on your plate too. But like just the time working on a project like that, how long does it take you to go through all of this? Like from the basic idea to a demo, a full song that can then be produced. Like how much time goes into that for you?
Well, I would say if the artist is committed to send me feedback pretty quickly, that could be done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Considering that I'm not working in any other project, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So if you do it on your own for your own song, like how long does it take you to, if you have an idea of a song and you're like, I think I want to produce this, how long does it take you from first idea to a demo that you like?
That is way more difficult to measure because for me, like my own songs are not my job.
Yeah.
So I only do that on my free time and treat it as a hobby, and I don't care about time or anything.
Which is cool because that is exactly where a lot of our listeners are. They do it as a hobby. So I'm interested in like just roughly how long it takes you with all the skills you have.
I would say it would take me, this last song I was working on, it took me 1 week. But I was maybe working on it 30 minutes or 45 minutes, 1 hour every day. So
yeah, and you're a very skilled musician. You know how to operate the tools and the DAW and all of that. So you have all the skills you need. It's just about putting in the work. Like, I'm just saying that again because there's different types of people. Some work on one song idea forever, and that's not good, of course. But then there are others who are like, I can crank out 10 songs a day. I'm so productive. I have so many good ideas. And like, it takes me half an hour to write an awesome song. And I really get messages like that where people are so confident about their work. And they're like, I write hits all the time. In the past 20 years, I've written 100 songs and all of them are fantastic. And, you wouldn't believe the messages I sometimes get. And then I listen to the demos and I'm like, I don't know who gave you that kind of feedback, but apparently there's a disconnect there. But, even someone who's very, very skilled technically and in terms of playing instruments and all of that, it takes a little while. It might take a day or two or a week or 2 weeks or whatever, and that's perfectly fine and normal. So, and if you are just a songwriting machine and you write 5 songs a day, which some people can really pull off, there's some like professional writers who write for sync licensing or whatever, they can do a lot. But if you write, if you are one of those songwriting machines, chances are that not every single one of those songs is really that great, and maybe you should focus on 1 or 2 to take it to full production, and or maybe you're completely overestimating the quality of your work, and maybe you should just slow down a little bit and do it properly. But you have to answer that for yourself. I'm just saying it's good to have a realistic reference. When you say a couple of half an hour here, an hour there, and then over the course of a week you're done, that means if you have a full day or 2 day or a weekend, you can probably write a song like that or turn an idea into a full song. I think that's realistic. And if it takes you 2 weeks or longer, that's totally fine. As long as you don't work for months or years on just one song, it's totally fine. You don't rush it, but also don't take ridiculously long.
Yeah, like for me, I have periods where I write a lot of songs, a lot. Like I can maybe write 6 songs in 2 months or something like that in this, free time slots that I have, right? But I only write the song, like the lyrics and the chords, and I leave them there.
Yeah.
They are hanging there for a while. And then at some point I decide to produce one of them.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because but then I can stay 2 more months without writing anything.
Yeah.
Totally. If I was a professional songwriter, I would probably write way more than that.
Of course you would. Yes. Yeah, totally. And you would also throw away a lot. All the professional songwriters I've ever talked to, they just write all the time, regardless of how they feel, regardless of whether they're inspired or not. They just write. That's what they do. And they know that most of it is going to be crap. And that's fine. And they just write and write and write, and they keep the stuff that's good. They throw away the rest or park it for later. Sometimes a crappy idea can turn into something good later, but it's just about the habit of writing and not expecting every single thing you touch to be gold, and be magic. That's not going to happen. Just write. So, okay, cool. Now, I can tell you that I've listened to Manel's work a lot because we've been working together for a while. He started as one of our mentees in our coaching program, and then he joined our team here. He's now my podcast co-host, and there's a reason for it because he's just really, really good at what he does. And now we're at this point where if you send me demos for feedback, we still, even though you're not officially like a student anymore, but I still listen to your stuff. When you send me new demos of a song that you're working with an artist or your own song, I'm always happy that you always put there, this is a demo of a new song that I'm working on, because if you didn't tell me that, sometimes it's hard for me to tell if this is the actual production or the mix or the demo, whatever, because the demos before the recording really starts already sounds like a finished record in most cases. And so this is where you want to be at eventually. And if every single great producer that I've ever talked to, that I've ever worked with, the result of the pre-production and demo process is ridiculously good. It's not a rough, like a very raw demo like it used to be. Maybe like these days, it's possible to make a demo without worrying about perfection, about it being perfect. To make a demo that sounds really, really good already, and you wouldn't believe how close some of those demos are to a final production. And then when you hear the re-recorded final thing, it's still a big difference, of course. But yeah, it's mind-blowing. And so many people are so far away from that, and they walk into a studio completely unprepared, basically, or with a song that's not ready, or they don't even hear some of the things because they don't hear that the guitar pattern is different, the strumming pattern is different from what the bass and drums do or whatever, because everything's like on top of each other and it's just this hot mess. And like having a really good, well thought out pre-production and demo just tells you so much about your arrangements, your songs, if it's going to track well, if it's going to be easy to mix and all those things. So it's so important to do that well. And in case of Manel, I know that your demos always sound like finished songs to me, and then I just look forward to the final production. It's always even better. But yeah, it's ridiculously good. And so I can highly recommend, if you want someone to walk you through this process so you don't have to do it yourself, contact us or contact Manel directly. Go to Manel's website and talk to him about it, because that's what he does, and he does it super well. And if you are at this point where you have songs and now you're struggling to record them and mix them and all that and make them sound good, then please go to theselfrecordingband.com and contact us and apply for our coaching program, because then we can work one-on-one with you to turn this song that you have into something that sounds like a finished release. So you need to finish the pre-pro or the writing phase first. We also help you with pre-pro, so it doesn't have to be fully perfect, but you have to have a song, something that we can work with. So you go through the writing phase, you write songs or a song that you want to finish, and then you come to us, and then we can help you make it sound amazing, as good as the records you wanted to, that you personally like. And if you can't get to that point where you're ready for that kind of collaboration, you need someone like Manel. And yeah, that's why we wanted to make this episode. You can do it yourself using that same framework and process. You can hire Manel. You can go to a professional producer in studio and let them do their thing, whatever. But just take it seriously, and don't book studio time or don't hire a coach to help you with recording and mixing before you have a song that you can actually record and mix.
And after that, you can contact Benedict to mix the song so that you can have the highest quality possible ever.
Yeah, totally. On that note, thank you, Manel, for saying that. But on that note, we're actually just brainstorming on a few things, because we have this kind of, since we're working now together, we have this vision of like building a team of really cool people who can do specific parts of a project. So for those of you who want the full package and like who just say like, I want to be an artist, do the rest for me, please, or with me, we can do that now, and we don't do it all ourselves on our own. We can team up. We have amazing session drummers in our network, in our community. We have amazing other musicians. We have producers and writers like Manel. We have mixing engineers like myself. We have Thomas, who works with me at my studio, who is just fantastic at creating drum tracks, editing stuff, layering samples, doing a lot of like drum production work and stuff like that, reamping as well. We have mastering engineers. We have, like, if you want the full like experience, full package, no compromise, we can do that. So this is something we're brainstorming on. We didn't put it into a clear offer or a website yet, but we can do that. And I'm very excited about that kind of future, because I really think that a team of specialists working on a song together is the best way to do it. And yeah, that's how all of our favorite records have been made at the end of the day anyways. So yeah. All right, cool. So different ways to get there. One requires more time, the other one requires more money. There's always different approaches for everyone. If you're not sure which one's right for you, contact us. We'll do a free call with you and figure out the best solution. Mm-hmm. All right. So thank you for listening. We enjoy doing this podcast a lot, and it's only possible because of you. Please share this with your friends. Leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you enjoy podcasts. Comment below if you're watching this on YouTube, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.